How's everyone doing? It's Jerome Parker, and having a tech talk today. I know I'm a little late. I usually try to do this around 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Uh, the current time it's around 9 o'clock, or after 9 o'clock rather. So, there's two things that I want to talk about today. Um, One is the Uber crisis that happened. I want to talk about that. And I also want to talk about the Texas bombings. And I know the second one may seem like it doesn't really intersect with tech talk, but it does. But before I get started, if you haven't already before, go ahead hit that like subscribe button. I do these tech talks Tuesday and Thursdays. I try to be consistent, but I do own another business, so I don't always get to be as consistent as I would like to. But I also have a website, jeromeparker.com. There you can see my tutorials, my write ups, basically on my YouTube videos. I also have some merchandise for you guys to check out. Follow me on all social media at on Twitter. It is at MasterShake08, MastaShake08. That is also my Snapchat and my Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook. My Facebook page, I believe, is just facebook.com/Jerome Parker, all one word. Is there anything else? That's pretty much it. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right into it. For those of you who did not hear, the other day, a self-driving Uber car hit and killed a pedestrian. And they were testing their new self-driving feature, which since the accident has been suspended. Um, I can't remember exactly where it was. I know there's only four of them out in testing right now. I don't have the article right here in front of me. I'm actually streaming from my iPad. I just want to test. I wanted to test a stream from the iPad today. I actually won a new iPad when I was at Token Fest over the weekend in San Francisco. It was pretty cool. But I'm probably gonna go back to my Mac for the next stream because I have a better microphone and whatnot. But long story short, self-driving Uber car hit and killed a pedestrian. That's the crux of basically what happened. You can, if you want to know all the details, it's all over the news, all over Twitter. You can just search it. But what I want to talk about, since it was a self-driving car, is the future of automation and going forward as we build these systems, the things that we need to think about as we build those systems. So, in the case of Uber, um, I can't remember if it was a software failure or if it was just a circumstances, the variables around, like if it was safer to hit the person than it was to not hit the person or whatnot. But I know that there was a human in the car who apparently wasn't doing their job either. I saw an article talking about how the person was a felon. I don't know what that really had to do with anything, but I gather that he wasn't paying attention, and that ultimately contributed to the pedestrian's death. But in the future, and probably not in the distant future, we're going to have uh, automated systems that will be, to a very large degree, human free. So when you're building systems, let's go with an automated car, self-driving car, where there is completely no human interaction. How do you program a situation, or how do you prioritize safety? Do you prioritize the programming of the self-driving car to protect the person in the car first, or do you program it to protect the people around the car first? So let's hypothesize on the situation that happened. Let's say that there was no human in the car, and or rather, there was a human in the car, but the human was a passenger. It wasn't acting as a driver. It was in the back seat, riding in the back seat. And let's say the pedestrian illegally jaywalked, and there was um, there was a car in the lane over that was accelerating at a rate that the self-driving car knew that if it went over into the next lane, it would have gotten hit. Okay, so picture the self-driving car is going in this lane. There's a car that's speeding up, and then this pedestrian does an illegal jaywalk. How do you program that self-driving car? Do you program it to um, and there's traffic behind immediately behind the car in the lane that they're in, so they can't hit the brake, they can't uh, get over in the left-hand lane. So do you protect the pedestrian that illegally walked out, or do you program the car to protect the passenger who's riding in the car? Because in this situation, it looks like somebody's going to get hurt. It's either going to be the pedestrian or it's going to be the passenger, or and probably whoever uh, that car collides with. And when you're building these type of critical infrastructures, you're literally dealing with life and death situations that you have to think about when you program these systems. So what are the so now you're getting into an ethics talk, because if it was me and I had to make the decision, and it was a decision where there's no happy ending, somebody's got to get hit, then the self-driving car should hit the person who it should hit the pedestrian. If there's no way to swerve around or whatnot, then the pedestrian broke the law. Unfortunately, it's a stupid law to. It doesn't deserve somebody's life, but at the cost of the passenger and potentially the other people who they collide with losing their lives. Yeah, it's always crappy to compare, but you would have to make a decision. And it's more than just self-driving vehicles. You got let's say we build a system for self construction sites. The cranes and all that, they're all run by robots. And I don't want to use the wrong jargon. So let's say the automated crane is picking up the steel beams to build this new skyscraper, and the sensors are giving a warning that the beams are about to fall off of the rail of the little crane thing. They're about to fall off. So the programming in the crane, it's able to do calculations to figure out, where it needs to move the robot arm so that when the steel beam falls off, it'll know where it's going to drop. So it needs to calculate what's the best place to basically drop the steel beam because it's going to fall. So if you're doing this in a crowded downtown area, it's got to calculate the probability of hitting people. These are little situations that I think about when I think about AI and automation. What are the edge cases of stuff that's not likely to happen, but you need to code it in? How do you quantify safety with these systems? And furthermore, how how do you test it? Because a lot of stuff that happens is either freak of nature stuff, or it is just out of the norm situations that we wouldn't normally think about. but I'm gonna do a follow up video or follow up videos. I'm gonna start following the story more closely and giving updates on the Uber side, see what's going on legally with that because I'm interested to see how that's gonna play out. But when situations like this happens, unfortunately, people who don't understand uh, automation, computer science, programming, they go the extreme route of saying, "Oh, all automation is bad, all AI is bad, is going to take over, is Skynet, Terminator is starting now, and all that chicanery." Um, it is unfortunate that this person lost their lives, lives. Um, it is unfortunate, or life. I'm sorry. It is unfortunate that this happened, but it doesn't mean that we should stop um, working on technology. Yeah, it's a really touchy subject, right? Because we're dealing with life and death, and you don't want to seem you want to respect the fact that someone lost their life. Um, and this goes back to what I was saying. How do you test these systems? Because these are situations where you cannot afford to mess up. Some applications you can afford to mess up while you test. Most applications you can afford to mess up while you test. These kind of situations where you're dealing with machinery that can cause death if it's misused or there's an accident or whatnot, you can't afford to mess up. And unfortunately, this is what happens when you mess up. Like I said, I think this had to equally do with human error as much as it did code error, which I don't even know if it was code error because, like I said, it goes back to like how do you program safety. I don't know all the variables of what happened when the pedestrian was hit, but let's assume that it was code error. It's just as much human error as well because there was a human in the car who was supposed to prevent this kind of stuff from happening. But that's pretty much all I have to say on the Uber side. Now I want to go over to the Texas bombings. For those of you who are not aware of what's been going on in Austin, Texas, there has been someone or a group of people who have been laying packages on black people's doorsteps. And when they open the packages, they blow up. There's been a 17-year-old who was killed. I think a 31-year-old or 33-year-old was killed. And there was an elderly woman who was severely hurt, but she's alive. Um, they're only targeting black people, and the local police seem to be baffled on any leads. I think it was earlier today there was a package that blew up at FedEx that authorities believe was en route to go to Austin, and I guess a tripwire went off or something, and it blew up in the FedEx. So the thing that bothers me, or one of the things, or several things that bother me about this situation, but one of the things that bother me is them saying that they have no leads and they have no idea, where to start. Um, these are not simple bombs. These are sophisticated bombs. Like I'm pretty, probably high probability that this person is ex-military. They really know what they're doing. And the material needed to make these kind of bombs are not um, are not easy to make. If you get, if I'm making sense, they're not easy to replicate. The materials needed to create these things is not